Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We're back. It's our weekly wrap-up show here, where, quite frankly, in the world of Tottenham, is there much to wrap up? More a case, what are we wrapping at the moment? If it was the very, very first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we are on Blue Sky too. We've got a regular return in panelists that are going to help us break down, not quite literally, what is happening with regards to Tottenham and everything. Back on the show, we've got the brilliant changing backgrounds as we speak. It's the sun behind him. Is that a sign of good things to come? We've got Jonathan Hamme back on from Football Link. John, lovely back alongside us here. How are you, bud? We need you to unmute from your end if you can.
Yeah, I thought they said that was Son. That is Son sailing into the sunset. Maybe. Possibly, hopefully. Love him dearly, but time has come. Yeah, out in Mallorca at the moment, back this week. And thankfully, I was mourning the fact that I was missing the two games. And thankfully, I missed Luton. Thankfully.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably from your benefit, the most thankful you've probably ever been to miss a couple of games. I mean, I'm not sure many people would be more thankful than ever to miss those couple of friendlies. We'll be coming on to that and more, most certainly. But lovely to have you back. Of course, Johnny, you can catch him on Football Link. He's had a couple of days off that as well, enjoying a little bit of rest and relaxation. Why not a bit of R&R at the moment? Spurs have been on R&R for quite a while, you fair to say, in terms of the market. We'll come on to that and more. Also back on the show, we've got the wonderful Ash over at Spurs Kings TV. Ash, thank you so much. I know there's a lot going on right now in terms of news about Tottenham, very little in terms of incomings at the moment, which I know many are craving for.
Yeah, Ricky, man, thanks for having me on again. Big up to the panel, big up to the chat as always. And let's dive into it, man. Let's cut it up. Let's dissect
Absolutely.
it.
Listen, one man who doesn't need instruction. I've saved him till last. We want to firstly wish him many congratulations on behalf of the whole family at Last Word on Spurs as he becomes a grandfather. And I was going to make a joke there, but I'm not going to make a joke. Charles on mute already, everyone knows with Jar. It's always fun again whenever this man comes on. It's not Jar's fault. Every time he comes on.
I'm well happy. I blew the second half of the Luton game out to get over to see the new little granddaughter, which was lovely. So went over to Liverpool. That's where my elder boy. He's still got a massive. He's going to be a good dad. He's a good boy. He's got a massive Tottenham flag in his front room. It's the first thing you see. Like, it's great, you know. But I work with him sometimes as well, so I'm very close with my son. So this is fantastic. It's the first grandchild in the family with me wife and with me daughter-in-law's family. So she's going to be well spoilt, you know. Reacting very well to the track Birdland by Weather Report. When she was in the womb, she reacted well to that. So seems to be grooving on Weather Report more than anything. Which, you know, she might be another musician, you know.
We're looking forward to that.
Broke. Yeah. But I did catch the games and, it's a tough watch. You know, I watched the one against Reading as well. Same old problems, to be honest. I mean, it's a big miss. We haven't got Madison or Kuleveski there, but turgid, pedestrian. We only looked lively when we brought the youngsters on in the Luton game towards the end, you know. Yeah. And actually Wickham as well, really. It was the youngsters who sort of showed out. And already one or two injuries and illnesses creeping in, you know. Yeah.
I've got to say, you know, I think for many out there, it's been a tricky last 48 hours, but many would argue it's been 48 years. But look, let's not forget, we did win a European Trophy only 3-4 months ago. And I think, look, right now, with regards to the football club, I know there's a degree, well, not just degree, a lot of frustration about our lack of activity so far. And of course, that only just accelerated by the fact of the news around Morgan Gibbs-White over the course of the last 24, 48 hours, where he has signed a new deal with Nottingham Forest. We'll be coming on to that, of course, and we'll also be coming on to really what the rest of this winter looks like for Tottenham. We know that really now with the players that have made that trip to South Korea, that maybe this week is going to be a real indicator as to what Tottenham are going to be doing and what their season's going to be looking like, because it's fair to say that the games come up for Tottenham in this next week or so. The likes of Arsenal, Newcastle, you roll it around to Bayern Munich and then the Super Cup final. We're going to know very, very quickly what Spurs want to be, that is for sure. But let's start, if we can, guys, with the update we've had and the announcement of the tour squad for South Korea. And that travelling squad for our pre-season has now been confirmed. Destiny Udogie, Kota Sakai, Mana Solomon will all remain at Hotspur Way for treatment instead of travelling for the club's pre-season tour, alongside Radu Dragashin, Dejan Kulusevski and Brian Hill, who will continue their rehabilitation. Mikey Moore, Alfie Devine, Dane Scarlett have been granted permission not to travel in order to explore potential opportunities for loan moves. And we also understand, according to John from Lille White Rose, Jun I Byfield is included in the first team tour squad to travel to Hong Kong. So I want to say, really, I wouldn't say Johnny coming over to you to start. Not too many surprises in there. I think, maybe Mikey Moore might be the bigger one, but I think it's been relatively, as we're going to come on to in the show, known Mikey needs minutes. And again, those players that are not travelling are a case that they do need to get minutes elsewhere. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people are upset that Devine wasn't included in the squad in the first game. A lot of people thought he had a really good game. Maybe I was watching something different. I wasn't overly impressed. I thought he was okay. But listen, I don't call the shots. I don't think there was really many surprises. I think the main surprise was that Destiny didn't make the trip. Mikey Moore has stated that, wants to get minutes. And it's a conundrum, isn't it, for someone like Mikey Moore? He wants to progress, loves the club, but at the same time, he needs the minutes. So whether that's, going out on loan to a championship club and there's lots of interest, or going out to somewhere like Borussia Dortmund, and we've all seen with the likes of the Bellingham boys and Jamie Gittins that they do develop players really well. I'm not sure what's best for him, but I think a loan is. No mention of Brian Gill. I think he should be sold. Mana Solomon's injured again. No shot there. And the rest basically speak for themselves. I'm not sure about Takai. I'm not sure whether Takai maybe needs some fitness.
Yep.
I think Janai was a lovely bonus for him to go out. Maybe just to experience it and give him a taste of what's to come. I made the terrible correlation saying that I thought he reminded me of a young Ledley King, and I got absolute pelters for it, but I don't care because there's something really, really, really special about him. I know he's 16 years of age and there's a massive, long journey to go, but he's a beast, and I think he's got a fantastic career ahead. Interesting one for me. I feel sorry a bit for Jamie Donnelly, although he's on the plane. I was really hoping to see him in the 10 role as more of a creative player. But now with Destiny Udogie off the plane, it looks like he's going to be maybe shooed in to the left back position. But I really would like to see Pedro Porro at the right, Jed Spence playing left, which I think at the moment he seems more comfortable in that position, and maybe Jamie getting some minutes in the middle of the park, because I just think that he offers us, first of all, he's homegrown, and second of all, he could offer us something as the season progresses in the middle of the park. Yeah. But that's the sort of a brief breakdown. I don't think there's any major shocks in there, but I think we're all agreed that a team that lost 22 games last season and conceded 63 goals, that squad ain't nowhere near good enough. I'm sorry, Daniel, for the Champions League or the Premier League or the Carling Cup or Carabao Cup, whatever you want to call it.
Well, look, we're definitely going to come on to the squad and where this does leave us. And I mean, coming over to you, Ash, if we can. Like Johnny picked up on there, obviously Mikey Moore not travelled. We'll be exploring options in these next week or two. I think Alistair Gold did report the fact that he's very keen to get regular football for his development. We understand that his camp have been pushing for a loan move for the youngster during contract talks with a number of clubs both in England and abroad keen on taking that under-19 international for the season ahead. It should also be put out there, as Ali reports in his article, that Spurs are well aware of his homegrown status, which makes him a precious commodity in the Champions League squad. and he does not have to be registered to the main group. But I think the key thing about it is, Ash, there's no point keeping a player here, regardless of homegrown numbers or not, if he's not going to play football. There's no real benefit to him. So do we hope for Mikey that he just gets a progressive loan and, as Johnny said there, first and foremost, gets regular first-team football in this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think when it comes to Mikey Moore, if I'm being honest, I'm going to compare it to Amad Diallo for Manchester United. He was loaned out to the Black Cats, Sunderland, and he had a stint at Championship, and he was first, like a diminutive kid, you know what I'm saying? He didn't really have a lot about him, physicality, wasn't really that confident, and he got knocked about, if I'm being honest. When he first went to the Championship, he didn't really thrive over that first, but you need that as a young player. You need to be knocked about. You need to feel the hard knocks and get into the reality of men's football. And so I think they kept playing him, and then eventually, you know, the cream rose to the top. And I'm thinking with Mikey Moore, there was times I saw him last season when he played against Crystal Palace, and I remember he was against players like Chalobah, who was on loan from Chelsea, and he had to compete against him and Munoz. And I felt in that game he wasn't getting a big enough grip on the game, albeit some might say he wasn't played in his preferred position in the 10 role. He was out wide on the left. Either way, I felt like, you know what? Maybe in the Premier League, especially, he might need some more minutes, some more regular time to kind of get hold and develop his actual physicality and his power and grow into his body. Because as a young player, he's only 17. He needs time to fill out and mature as a player, and also improve on when to go, when not to go, decision making, etc., which comes with experience, in my opinion. I think when it was the Europa League, we saw the best of Mikey Moore. So when he was playing those type of opposition team, he played in the Netherlands.
At
Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Augsburg as well, the Swedish team, as you just said. We saw the best of him, and that was against players that were similar age at the time. I think some of the fullbacks were like 19, 20 he was up against. And so you kind of got to see what he was about, his raw ability, his close control, his ability to take players on, go on the inside, go on the outside at times. And then obviously we saw a goal at the end of it. But yeah, in my opinion, just to round it up, I just think going back to the Amad Diallo point, we saw when he did come back to the Premier League, he was a beast and he was ready to, you know, cement his place in that Manchester United squad. Now he's battling it out, to be fair, with their new signing in Bumo. I know that he might probably be deployed as a wing back, but at times, you know, they might put him as a right winger, but he's that good. And I remember like him and Kulusevski having a chat because they went to the same, they were at the same team, had the same education. And so, yeah, you know, when you look at players like that, you've got hope for Mikey Moore that a similar transition, in my opinion, could happen if he goes out on loan to a Championship team, gets a lot of minutes, he gets his time up there, and then he comes back to Spurs and he's ready to fire.
I mean, Jards, on that point, coming over to you. I mean, again, I know these tours are seen as quite an important opportunity to really develop a real bond with the squad and for Frank to really get his method and, again, you'd say adoption of his philosophy across to the group. But the fact, and we'll come on to it shortly, we know there's been a frustration, and rightly so, that there's not been more high-profile signings made by Kuda so far that will go out on this tour. I just wonder for you, the fact that Mikey Moore's looking for a loan, Divine's looking for opportunities, Scarlett's looking for opportunities, but the fact, again, there's no Udogie there, Takai there, Solomon's going to remain at Hotspur way as well. When you look at the squad that's going out there for you, is there any real, for you, big misses from that in terms of what's been selected, or do you just think this is an opportunity to get this group together now, and this is probably what Frank has got to work with over the next week or so?
Yeah, I don't think there was any great surprises for anybody. I think we all know Sonny will probably be off after this tour. I know probably the younger players as well, it's be an amazing experience, a tour like this, but I wager the managers of these Premiership clubs going off playing these tours would probably rather be back on the playing friendlies here and back on the training ground, you know, Hotspur way for us would probably suit them better. And probably for a lot of the players, a lot of these players are on aeroplanes through the year playing on international breaks. So the reason for this tour is obviously commercial, isn't it, for the clubs? You know, it's about fan base, it's about spreading merch sales, etc. It's a bit like the music game used to be when we had money, you know. But you know, there was loads of money swishing about. Now sports is where it's at, but there's no big surprises. I don't expect them to make a great showing because obviously we've got a real dearth of attacking talent. I agree with Johnny. Donnelly could play a part. I think he's, you know, played a bit of men's football already. He's got something about him because we haven't got any proper out and out attacking midfielders, second striker sort of people.
Yep.
And as Ash said, you know, with these boys who have been left behind, the younger players, Scarlett Dane as well, they've got one of the problems with Tottenham. The players either haven't been loaned young players over the years, or they've been loaned to the wrong clubs. You know, the arrangements haven't been good where they were guaranteed any real game time. Sometimes, obviously, it's down to the player to sink or swim playing men's football. But you know, you've got to be thinking about it very carefully. You know, and you know, do you go with Mikey Moore? Do you go the route of Bundesliga where the technique's probably pretty good? Technically, it's going to be good. Or the Championship. For me, I think the Championship would be a better bet for him. A Millwall, somebody like that, you know, where they give a guarantee to Tottenham. If he hasn't played so many games by Christmas, you can have him back, you know. You know, he's got to play men's football now, you know. I said there were no real surprises. I think a lot of Spurs fans would rather we weren't doing this. It could well be a turkey shoot for those three teams against us. You know, I'm hoping we will be at least compact. I'm hoping that Romero's about to be offered a new contract and that he'll be trying his best. And that when you look at the defenders we've got now, there's some sort of solidity there. We're lacking a number 6. Let's hope Palhinha is flying out to join them within a week. Yeah, you know, because we need a proper number 6. You know, that's got to be in there. But there's no real surprises. Maybe within the squad, maybe players like Bissouma and Richarlison, who we're expecting to go, maybe they'll think, well, I want to stay. I'm going to fight for my place. You know, there might be a surprise or two for us. You know, the Thomas Frank factor, I think, will come into play. You know, I think one or two players will suddenly improve a lot under his leadership, I suspect. You know, and already it looks sensible. You know, you're going to be. It looks that we're going to be playing with 2 holding players, and you know, one fullback will push up, but the other one won't. You know, it becomes a back 3 when the other fullback advances. Just sensible football. You know, but we're obviously with Kulusevski and Maddison out. It's, you know, you got to do something. I mean, I wonder if Sarr, I thought, looked good yesterday and was almost looked to me like he was like a striker at times. He was really, you know, looks to me like he's told to get into the box and he done well. Got a couple of goals. You know, so he's somebody that could really make a big impression, I think, under Thomas Frank, you know. But we need, for me, if someone like Richarlison doesn't start performing and does go, as I suppose he probably will, we need a proper centre forward as well, you know. So I look at the squad. It's difficult for me to talk about it without talking about deficiencies immediately.
Yeah, of course. The squad is short. We know the squad is short. It was short last season. We knew last season it was in need of an upgrade, and here we are now. And as we know, you know, Bartakai that's come in, who again really is an unknown. We've been told he's a good player, and Barkadus, that, you know, again from the back of what we've seen at West Ham, in a really good first season there, second season not so much. We have to hope he's going to help the squad, but still the squad is short. You can't get away from that. It's very, very short. It needs improvement, and you know, we'll come on to maybe why we've not seen that improvement because of what Spurs have been doing over the last few weeks over one particular player. But I think what it does emphasise, really, Johnny, come over to you before I do also bring this up is that we are hearing suggestions that Lille are understood to be negotiating with Tottenham over a season-long loan for Anton Kinský. Just have to get your thoughts on that, because we saw Brandon Austin in action only 24, 48 hours ago, where, let's be honest about it, obviously what will be highlighted is the fact that he allowed one to go right underneath his body and into the back of the net. And I think fans would be quite concerned right now if we were to give Kinský a loan and be left with just Vicario and Austin battling it out to be the outright number one. I just wonder how much credibility you would give these reports at this stage, the fact that Tottenham would even consider allowing a loan move for Kinský to be happening over the course of this summer period.
Well, it's obvious, isn't it, Ricky? We're going to get rid of Kinský and we're going to go and sign Donnarumma. I mean, it's obvious that that's going to happen. We'll just pay PSG whatever they want and it'll be waltzing in. Look, I mean, I remember seeing in the down at Hotspur Way, Personality Plus, the personality of Magnolia Paint, Johan Lang there on his phone. He just doesn't cut the mustard when I compare him to Fabio strutting around with the strings falling out of his... that's him. Yeah, that's the picture. That's the picture there. Magnolia Paint. I don't know what to say. Look, he's not cutting it for me. I'm sorry. There's the man. Okay. We need to see him ranting and raving on the phone with the wires hanging down, dangling out of his ears, doing some deals. He's been worryingly quiet. Look, this deal, I think, for me, having seen Keeley come through the academy and gone to see quite a lot of the academy games and gone to watch him at Orient, I was a bit surprised that he left. I'm not surprised from his point of view. I think Kinský arriving was a real kick in the nuts for him because they're not far off the same age. And I think Josh Keeley's been very impressive. I think that's 2 games, 2 clean sheets.
And man of match against us as well.
Yeah. And, but interesting for me, I thought Kinský, between the 2 45 minutes, he looked the more assured, made 2 nice little smart saves down at his near post, collected the ball well, distributed the ball well. And I always get a bit nervous when Vicario gets on the ball with his feet. I can only imagine that if there is any truth to it, we've got a proper goalkeeper coming in. Because there are questions. Like, I like Vic as a person,
Yeah. I like yeah.
But, at the end of the day, I like a lot of things, but sometimes you can find something that's better. And it just seems strange when you consider we need a left centre-back, we need a 6, we need another striker, we need a left winger.
Another 10.
We need a 10, yeah. And, what's this all about? Please, can someone get on the phone and bring back the Don and put Mr. Magnolia back in his box? Because look, I'll give him Bergvall. I'll give him Bergvall because we can see that's going to be a great deal. But no, not for me. This it's just a bit baffling, this one, especially as I said with Josh Keeley just disappearing to Luton the other day. We've taken 4 goalkeepers on the tour.
Yep.
I've got to say, Gunter is an incredible goalkeeper. In fact, if anything, I'd say he's better than Keeley. I think maybe I've just been fortunate. Whenever I turn up to academy game, he seems to be having a worldie. Again, big journey from academy football out. Maybe they see more of a progress than him. I don't know. But we got young goalkeepers. It would be nice to have maybe a mature backup. Maybe we'll go for Ortega. Has anyone thought about that from Man City?
I just wonder. I mean, you've mentioned it there, Johnny. I think the key thing
you can't have 2 excitable young men fighting for your goalkeeping place. Sorry, 2 excitable young men.
I think many would argue that. I think that when we look at the goalkeeping situation at the moment, I agree with you, Johnny. I think I really like Vic as a person, but I do have genuine concerns about his commanding of the 6-yard box. And we're now going into season 3. And to still have those concerns is a big, big worry, despite the fact I think he's a phenomenal shot stopper. I think we've seen that really, throughout his period at Tottenham. There's no doubt he's a great shot stopper. My concern would be around the fact that in terms of the commandment of the box, that still was a concern for me going into season 3. And you'd hope by then we would iron it out, but we will just see. I want to just quickly fit in the friendlies, Ash. Come over to you because I know there's been a real mix of feelings about what we've seen over the last 24, 40 hours with Tottenham, and by the fact that, these friendly results, 2 draws wouldn't have been what Thomas Frank would have wanted in terms of preparation for those pre-season matches to come against Arsenal, Newcastle, Bayern, respectively, just before the Super Cup final events, Paris Saint-Germain. But, again, to only have, when you think about it, the case that we had, I think, 24 different players feature in all these games, and over 180 minutes, in fact, we only scored a couple of goals. I think 11 shots against League One hosts in, I think it was Luton, albeit with only 2 on target, would maybe be a degree of concern. Ash, is pre-season for you about just getting minutes into legs, or is there anything more you would read into pre-season for you?
Normally, I would say yeah, because you're trying to get your team match fit, and you're trying to get the squad ready for the up and coming season. But the fact that we do have a new head coach and we've got new staff as well, you would think these players would want to impress their new manager. Am I making sense? So I would think that these guys would be playing out their skin, regardless if they're rusty or not. They're still going to show some type of listen, I'm trying to pin my position down for the left wing or the right wing. I'm the number 1 striker, or I'm the top centre back to pair with either Romero or Van der Ven. Or if Romero goes, I'm going to be the one to step in. Midfield wise, I want to be a partner with Bentancur. I need to be, or I can beat Bentancur. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So for me, I was expecting a little bit more in terms of application against, no disrespect to the League One sides, but that's what they are. And so yeah, at one side of it, yeah, you look at it and you say, yeah, it's training. They're just trying to get, the rust, because some of them might be a little bit rusty, a little bit off of it. And as we said in the background, in the back room, we said the League One teams, their league starts in a week time. So they're slightly ahead of their actual pre-season.
Yep.
And I think by the 3rd game, I think fans wanted to see what Thomas Frank was all about in terms of the style of play, and hoping that we'd see some type of patterns of play. But by all of that, looking at actual individual performances, you're thinking, let me see how Richarlison performs in front of goal. Can he put it in the back of the net? And when you see him scuff both of his chances, and you look at the rest of the front line, and they're not getting too many shots off, they're not creating shots for themselves, they're not creating too much chances for others, you can kind of see why there was a massive worry in terms of the front 3 last season and continue on to this season. Because I think that's what it is for a lot of fans. It's a continuation of the bad season that we had. So we were going into this preseason with a bit of hope. So because the hope has kind of diminished because of what's going on the outside, it's kind of bled onto the actual pitch now. For what we're seeing, we're actually realizing, you know what, the front 3 does need a lot of work. But how I saw it, it wasn't just the front 3, it was the midfield, it was the back 3, it was the goalkeeper, it was a numerous amount of issues within the squad. And the thing is, when you're meant to be a top 6 or a big 6 team, and you're going into a new season and you're playing League One opposition, you expect a level of dominance, or at least a competence on the ball in possession. So I saw the 2 games just really quickly. Luton one side, then you've got the game we played earlier, Wickham. Now the 2 that standout differences for me was Luton looked awful compared to Wickham, and I thought Wickham was bad at the time. And I was like, 2-2, it's not good. Obviously there was a mistake, but now looking back, the Wickham game was levels above the Luton game, in my opinion, even though we didn't create a lot, which is even more worrying. But for me, it's because the centre-back pairing for Luton, we had Danso and Van der Ven, and for me, both of them were wasteful in possession. And that's what didn't really help us. So Danso's loose balls, Van der Ven trying to do low balls over the top, not quite getting there. And when your possession breaks down from the start, that's a problem. Then the two midfielders, Archie Gray and Basuma, dropping short for it. They're making mistakes in possession. And that's why that game was so dull, like dishwater, because no one could really get hold of the game. Going back to the Wickham game, it was a different type of issue for me because we did manage to build up quite well, but then there was no end product. We didn't really create any other chances apart from, we'd say, Wilson Odobert. So it's those things and those issues. You're like, wow, we've got a lot of work to do. And guess what? There's 17 days left until we play a cup final. What are we doing here?
It's an interesting point you made.
I was just going to say, I don't disagree with what Ash is saying there. There were a couple of highlights. I mean, Odobert looked quite sharp. Papasar, pushing a little bit further forward. I thought Thompson in that first game really was a real live wire. Seeing he's got a lot of talent. Would have been interesting to see him on the flight, but he's not going to get any time on the wings. But the second game, Ash, it was hard to find really much there to sort of sing about, was it? And in the second game, I do think though that some of these players have just come back. This is like their first sort of 60 minutes of football.
Yeah,
but this is the same squad, as I said before, that lost 22 games. The same squad that struggled to score a goal against Tamworth. They're struggling against Tamworth. We haven't acquired anyone really since Tamworth. Is it really a surprise? The people out there, the Spurs fans out there who are expecting to turn this ship around in 3 friendly games, I'm sorry, you're delusional because it's just not going to happen. This is a hard thing to turn around. We needed 3, 4, 5 top quality signings. The rest of the Premier League, the top players in the top clubs in the Premier League, are investing, and they're leaving us in the mud. They're sailing off into the sunset, and we're in their rearview mirror right now. And when you look at those games, although it was a pre-season and fans are right to be stressed out, it was purely for fitness, right? It was purely for fitness. I would say though that the Arsenal have been out in Singapore in Asia for nearly a week now. And I've got to tell you, have someone who's been out of Singapore and Asia a few times, that jet lag is it's a mare, right? And Arsenal will be more than acclimatized by the time we come and play them. And we're only flying out today. And when do we play Arsenal? Was it the 3rd? Is it
Thursday? Yeah, it's it'll be on the Thursday, so we'll be there for a few days, and then we have got to say Arsenal on the 31st. So yeah, it's gonna come round fast. I mean, look, I just on that point you're saying there, Johnny. Coming over to you, Jar. I will come back to you, Johnny, in a second. I want to ask you a question.
Right,
I know me and you are both massive Thomas Frank fans. I know we are, but Jar, I think a lot of Tottenham fans aren't stupid. They know this is going to take time. I know there's some out there that maybe think there'll be an instant turnaround, but I think what these preseason games have showed is that there is a huge amount of work to do, not just with the squad, but also in the transfer market. And, Johnny was saying there, coming over to you on that point, Jar, about what other teams have done. When you look at alone, Man City, they've spent 126 million so far on 4 signings. Liverpool, they've spent over 100 million. They're about, obviously, they've just completed that deal for Hugo Ekitike, 69 million. They've had Florian Wirtz come through the door. When you look at the clubs, Arsenal, Goalkeeper, Zubamendi, Madueke, Mosquera, Norgard, potentially Eze soon as well. Liverpool, Wirtz, Ekitike, Frimpong, Kirk have come in. United, and Mbeumo, Cunha, Chelsea, Delap, Pedro, Gittins. I think there's Hato, Steemans also potentially coming in there. City, Cherky, Rendes, Ait Nouri. A lot of these clubs have done a huge amount of business already. Yeah. A lot. How concerning is that for you, Joel, when you look at these preseason games we've just had?
Well, you haven't even mentioned Man United.
Cunha and Mbeumo.
Well, they've got another. They've got 3, I think, haven't they? They've got another one I didn't even know too much about. But they've got Cunha, Mbeumo, and there's another one as well. So I mean, they're even United are pushing on more compared to us. Obviously, it's concerning. It's typical of Tottenham, isn't it? The bullshit that at the day we were around the week we were going for Morgan Gibbs-White, we were hearing there was 500,000 coming in. You know, there was they're going to naming rights were being sold. ENIC were going to be putting money in. There was a new management structure, and since then nothing. You know, so you really wonder. You know, it seems moribund looking from the outside in. Maybe there's a scheme going on. You know, maybe they've got a plan. I can't see any indication of that. And I wonder if I look at it and I suspect there's it's probably not abundantly clear to all the people involved exactly what their duties are, you know, and if they've got any real autonomy in what they do. So is Paratici involved? Is he more senior to Langer in this? Would he be considered his line supervisor, to use a lovely mundane phrase? You know, who's in control at the moment? You know, how involved is Levy on the football side? Because this silence has got the stamp of Levy all over it. You know, I remember when they did a little double act the other week. Look at the lovely, look at the white open neck shirts, casual but business-like. So very basic. They spent half an hour going, "You're really great, you are. You're really great, you are." You know, but it looked like then I was going to be kind of getting in the driver's seat. Since then, nothing. We're back down to the normal zero comms. And I know we're going to go on to talk about Morgan Gibbs-White, but when a situation like that happens, you would like to think they would know that the Forest owner, you know, is a box of tricks in a way. You know, he's very emotional. He's gonna do everything he can to stick up for his team. You know, he's gonna really fight any way he can. You know, and none of us know the legal exactly what's happened, exactly what it said in contracts. There was supposedly non-disclosure involved with the buyout clause. I don't think I can ever remember a fuss about a buyout clause in this way. But when you're in a situation like this, surely, from Tottenham's point of view, you think, if this goes wrong, what would it look like? So we can be ready to, you know, to act. Or
on,
at least
on alternative targets. Yep, agree.
Have alternative targets,
Agree.
and to know that the fans will get restless, and to therefore come out and say, we can't comment about the Morgan Gibbs-White situation.
Yep.
But we are looking at other targets actively. And then if you had any sense, you'd release a load of stories that you're close to signing Palhinha, or, you know, Eze, you're back in for Eze or something. You know, you'd have some plan B ready to go. But instead, nothing. It really looks like they've been completely bamboozled by what's happened, and they shouldn't have been, you know. And basically, you know, by their action, it would look to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but just from what you can perceive from it, it looks like they put Morgan Gibbs-White's agent in a very, very strong position. In a very strong position. So they've ended up getting a kind of contract, I bet, they never would have got unless Tottenham had come blustering into the situation, you know. So you don't know all the ins and outs of these things. No. We probably never will. But you know, it the way Tottenham, you know, this silence all around it is very poor, and it's a concern because let's face it, we are a million zillion miles away from top four. That's without a doubt. The Thomas Frank factor. Maybe he will imbue as like a warrior kind of culture at Tottenham. You know, very, very hard to beat. You know, maybe he's got a brief to bring one or two youngsters through, possibly. You know, maybe there's a plan. I can't believe him and Langer, who have worked together before, they're sort of Nordic Scandinavians who are pretty sensible people. They're sort of imbued with sensible Calvinistic values, you know, hard work, diligence, etc. You can't, you have to assume that those two at least would had some bloody plan, you know, with the squad to do with players in it. Maybe they just maybe his view is there's one or two players in that squad who are playing well beneath their capabilities, and they feel they can make them flower, But I suspect, he's having conversations to people saying, "Well, it's okay. This is a big club, and this would happen. It would be difficult, He'd be saying something along those lines because he's probably was hoping he'd get Visa in, or I bet there must have been a list of players discussed that he would like. We already know that he liked Archie Gray. He liked Brendan Johnson. We know he liked Morgan Gibbs-White. He tried to get these players. So we know there's players he will. So he'll have a shot being list. I would have thought with that. It just, is it a case where, someone maybe from the NX side is saying, well, we can't buy anybody until we sell, we're getting close to the edge now with a deadline.
Yeah, just on this point very quickly, I want to come on into more detail about the Gibbs-White situation when it leaves Tottenham in the market. But before I do, just want to go to Ash and Johnny very, very quickly, just on the situation around just summarising over the pre-season, because I know just coming over to you, Ash, very quickly, and I'll go to Johnny to close on this point. We're going to move on. Ash, I know, at the moment, pre-season, for many out there, they won't get too carried away by the nature of the results. It's about getting minutes into legs, but at the same time, there will be that feeling that it would have been so important to the manager to have had, ideally, the players that he would have wanted going into next season on this respective tour to essentially, as we've said earlier, really get them to understand the philosophy, get them to understand the way he wants to work, get them to understand the culture. They're going to be together now for 10, 11 days. From that perspective, how big of a miss is it that we've not been able to give the manager what he wants, it appears, for now, when it comes to working with these players at this period before we've got, as we know, the bigger games to come in pre-season? How much of a big miss is that for you at the moment?
I remember Pochettino coming out and saying it was a massive miss for him. He worked the players in before August, and I remember that was one of the biggest gripes for a lot of people in terms of how we were run, because apparently we didn't always want to pay the salary of the July month. They would rather pay the salary of August, and so that's been kept up. It doesn't help, we've got other things where other coaches are complaining that, they want their players in early, and this hasn't happened. And it makes it worse that competition or other teams that we're aligned with in the so-called Big Six, where they're moving ahead of us in terms of getting their squads together. So, of course, Frank's come to this club. He's probably had a few reassurances before he came joining this club and a few promises. And now he's having to quickly realize what type of situation he's in, and he's going to have to work within certain parameters, unfortunately. But it is what it is. He's a top coach. I'm sure him and his staff will be getting on with things. And when he first came, I remember there was lots of smiles in training. They were impressed of what they saw. Again, I saw from Johnny's page, actually, I saw it on Instagram. Go check it out if you can, guys. I think it was Spurs Relatable that posted it as well. And there's a video floating around of Romero and Thomas Frank. They're actually speaking to each other and having a proper conversation in depth. They're going back and forth, and it looked pretty promising. I don't know what was being said, but just from that side of things, you're like, okay, cool. We've got one of our leading top players that could be a captain, because obviously he hasn't decided who the captain will be. He's still deciding on that, but we know he's quite influential in the actual dressing room. He's one of the vice captains before. He's been a captain for us before as well, and he's a Europa Cup League winner for Spurs. More importantly, he's won obviously at Argentina. But going back to the point of Thomas Frank, I think going into a preseason friendly, he was trying to understand and acclimatize his players, his squads, know the strengths, but also know the weaknesses as well. I think that's more important. What's his limitations? What things do they need to work on to kind of kick on? And then hopefully that's been communicated with the right people. I know we've already spoke about Langer, but hopefully they're having that dialogue, that open dialogue on what they need and what needs to be done. And hopefully things can, get resolved whilst we're on tour. Sometimes players do come and join on the tour as well. The only worrying thing I'll just say, just to finish this off, is obviously the injuries have come back to haunt us. Dominic Solanke, obviously he is a player before he came to us wasn't littered with injuries at Bournemouth.
No.
And since he's come to us, unfortunately, he's just been, picking up injuries here and there. I know he's had a twisted ankle, and that might be the reason why he missed out on the weekend. But with Richarlison, with a history of injuries, it is worrying that you've only got one recognised centre forward. And so I'm hoping that the club are looking at this as a potential threat and maybe fishing around that centre forward area. I know it's a 1 in, 1 out. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit, so I won't dive too deep onto that right now. Yep. But again, Udogie is another player that was missing. And we know we've had issues with our left backs before. We know Spencer's had to fit in, and Archie Gray's had to fill in that fullback as well at times. But again, it's just obvious holes in the squad that keep popping up and have not been addressed from last season. So, there's a few concerns going into that tour. We want to go there fully strengthened, and we want those new players, if we were to get some, we will want them to understand the philosophy and understand the tactics of what Thomas Frank wanted, in my opinion.
On that point, actually, Johnny, just to close on this section, we've got quite a bit still to cover here. Do you think, given the fact of those 180 minutes that Frank has now witnessed, respectively, Wickham and Luton, shows the maybe sheer scale of what the job is ahead for him, just alone in terms of getting the players up to where he wants them to get to? Because this is no respect to Thomas Frank. I think me and you are both massive fans of him. I think we're glad he's here. Don't get me wrong. I think it's fair to say, I don't know if you agree on this, that we haven't seen a massive degree of patterns of play in these two respective friendlies. Maybe what we saw against Reading, to be fair. Again, I know it's only getting minutes into legs. Maybe it's wrong to judge and be looking and seeing a clear identity at this stage. But for someone like you, that's a massive fan of Frank. I know you've followed him a lot in terms of seeing the last 5-6 years of him. Would you have hoped by the third friendly in, you may have seen some kind of identity? Or is that being too harsh at this stage? What do you think?
I didn't expect to see any of that. No. I really didn't.
You just think it's about getting minutes into legs at this stage?
No. Yes, legs. It's absolutely legs.
Yep.
This squad and the gameplay, they lost 22 games.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They did 63 goals.
Yeah.
Did they think any manager's going to come in and wave his magic?
No. Can I just be clear for me? I'm the same as you, Johnny, just to be very clear on my position here. I'm not expecting to see anything incredible at this stage. It's a squad that has lost a huge amount of games last season. This is always going to need to take time. There was never going to be a case that could be done overnight. But I know there seems to be some fans out there that were expecting maybe miracles in this pre-season. For me, I know it wasn't going to be easy. So, just on to that point, Johnny, just to let you close on that, you wasn't expecting anything massive in these first 3 or 4 pre-season games.
No, I wasn't. And, I just think that, there's no relationships. Look, Cochrane is a top coach, and so is Thomas Frank. And the patterns of play cannot be installed into this group. They have to understand how he wants to play. I don't go on about Ange Postecoglou, but Ange Postecoglou, the reason why he stood on the touchline and didn't interact, because there was nothing to say. This is how I want you to play, drilled in. Every single day, eat, sleep, repeat on that training ground, right? Same routines, same, monotonous, right? What you're going to see with Thomas Frank is the complete opposite. And without going into what I know and who I know and who I speak to, already on the training ground, they're already practicing different maneuvers and different setups. But it's about relationships. Thomas Frank, as Ash will tell you, likes to play in triangles. And if you're going to play in triangles, every player has to understand how the other one operates, playing to their strengths. That ain't going to happen overnight. And, let's be honest. No player improved under Ange Postecoglou other than Lucas Bergvall. And that was an organic improvement for me. I think it's a tough task he's got there because the squad is definitely not good enough. When we got everyone fit, there are still elements of this squad that don't suit Thomas Frank. He likes like a terrier, get at him sort of squad, work hard, press hard, and try and win the ball back higher up of the pitch.
Yep.
it's going to take time. In fact, I think there is a video out there which you can probably see where he talks about a relationship between Kevin Sade and I think it's Buemo, and knowing when to make the runs and showing each of them, look, what's the point of you doing this when he's over there? And why are you doing this when? So it's understanding, building relationships, like, for example, the relationship that I'm not saying it's going to replicate that, but Harry Kane and Heung-Min Son. That is a relationship. That's a relationship built over time to understand who each other plays. But we're a million miles from that right now. And I just don't understand why. Of course, you're watching that game and it was boring. It was terrible, but I wasn't expecting anything. And that's the difference. And we're going to go, unfortunately, just to finish, we're going to go out to Singapore. We're going to play them on Thursday. Arsenal, as I said, have been out in Singapore and Asia for around a week now. They're going to be much more acclimatized than Spurs are turning up on Monday night. Honestly, it's poor organisation. That's all I'll say on that one.
Look, I think, again, at this stage, if we're judging a manager on free friendlies, I think we have to also look at ourselves. I just think,
Can I say, he's such a good, he was a guy, I watched all the stuff on YouTube before there was a sniff of him being our manager, because he's just a very charismatic, interesting person. And it's funny, you watch some of these SAS elite forces guys talk about their careers in the army, and sometimes they refer to the ordinary soldiering they learned as squaddies in the infantry or whatever. And I think there'll be a return to this basic thing, which will save your life. You know, I guess in that situation, I'm a softy musician, so what would I know? But and I think that there's a correlation with sports. And I think the discipline to do the basic stuff well will be one of the first things that will be instilled in them. And these players are not so bad; they can't be made at least fairly quickly into a team that's hard to beat. That's my wish, that they'll start probably on the defensive side of things, and without the ball, they'll have some kind of shape, some kind of rigidity. We saw they could do it in 2 or 3 games in Europe leading up to the final. They showed when they really had to do it, they could do. I think under Thomas Frank, he'll really instill the basics to start with. So I think we'll start to be rigid. We'll be harder to play through. And then as Johnny's saying, as these relationships develop all over the pitch, that apparently is what the double team had, didn't it? It was just relationships, or that great Dutch team under Rinus Michels in 1974 team. In the end, there's such a good relationship. It's like poetry in motion. Very, very hard to play against. I
was just going to say, Ash, just quickly, Ash. We were talking about what you were watching the other day. One of the important things is that no one's really going to be bothered with was the repeated block drills. Right? I mean, to most people, like, well, we want to score goals, right? Well, we want to stop goals, right? We conceded 63. Those block drills, eat, sleep, repeat, rush back, get the ball, block, throw your body on the line. That's it. Important.
That's it.
I think what's also been so crucial, I'm sure you would have picked up on it, is the one thing Frank has been saying in the last few press conferences, and we've heard it actually recently. Clean sheets are massive for him. Jamie Donnelly said that in his interview. The fact the manager wanted to keep clean sheets is huge. Whether people like it or not, I know it's League One opposition. We are unbeaten in free friendlies so far. I know for some out there, they'll be frustrated that we haven't seen more goals, we haven't seen more patterns of play, but it's such early days. And my only concern is, I know Mario actually said it in in our live chat here, that if we go on the tour and in relation to the respective friendlies coming up, we don't get good results against Arsenal, Newcastle, Bayern Munich ahead of Paris Saint-Germain. My concern is that already there's pressure on the manager. Look, we're going to squeeze in our first break of the show for our listeners and all that. We're going to come back round to Ash and discuss where we are in terms of Spurs in the market and how they are going to recover from the Morgan Gibbs-White saga. Whilst we do that, let's quickly hear, if we can, from Thomas Frank, who gives us a reaction to those couple of friendlies.
Well, thanks for joining us. Busy day.
Yeah, very busy day.
Okay, look, 2-2 against Wickham, 0-0 here against Luton. What were you looking for? Are you happy with how the day's gone?
Overall, okay, happy. I would say the big takeaways on the positive side is that I think we got more or less 75 minutes into to most of the players, and that was the reason why we played 2 mixed teams and also subbed on all the youngsters in the end of both games. So on the physical, minute-wise, box ticked, happy with that. We start with the Wickham game, positive. I felt the high pressure and the regaining of the ball was very successful in many ways throughout the game. I think we regained it, I don't know how many times, but I think we created 6-7 very dangerous situations where we should have done even more and scored the second goal from Pape. Also in the first game against Wickham, also runs in behind were good, so we were really focused on that. So that was the 2 positive things. We big focus on how can we see defend well, and we gave two goals away we shouldn't give away against Wickham. Scored 2 good goals from Pape. So the positive also in that game was Pape. If you should go into the Luton game, I think that was the game where I felt okay. You can see there's a bit to be worked on still. That is the 2 mixed teams that a little bit out of sync. The boys put everything in it. They were positive, head down, working hard, but those connections and relationships and get it to work was definitely not fluid. But it's good to have something to work with.
So a couple of team news.
Quite interesting there, as he says, that there's something to work with. And again, whether people like it or not, at this stage, Amanda is just finding out his squad and what they're all about, and obviously looking to add to his squad. One player that we know he isn't going to add, coming around to you, Ash, of course, is Morgan Gibbs-White, which has been the, let's be honest about it, the saga of the last 2.5-3 weeks, which actually reached a conclusion on Saturday night as Tottenham wasted, you would arguably now say, the last 2.5 weeks to try and get Gibbs-White through the door, to only been sensationally snubbed by the player and to stay at Nottingham Forest. So what is being described as a dramatic intervention by Forest owner Evangelos Marinakis, who we understand flew to the training camp in Portugal for face-to-face talks with Gibbs-White and explained from his perspective in a passionate speech about how important he was to Forest and their ambitious plans for the future. It is being revealed to us in these last few hours as we record this show that Gibbs-White release clause was complex and Spurs fell short of meeting a number of the conditions needed to activate that release clause. And, this saga, as we know, has taken the best part of 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and distracted Spurs really in terms of the transfer market. And as I mentioned earlier, whilst we have unfortunately been winning this saga, teams around us have improved. There's no getting away from that. We've seen City spend upwards of 126 million so far. Arsenal, they're getting huge business done, whether we like it or not to admit it. Liverpool also, with Ekitike through the door. Can't forget Chelsea either. They spent 212 million with Pedro Gittins de Lap among their new faces. There is a feeling, Ash, coming around to you that we are really being, let's not for a better word, being left behind in the market so far. What's been your takeaway, Ash, over the last 48 hours and the way this has really worked out with Gibbs-White and the way it's really fallen apart?
Yeah, I can't lie. When I found out, my head was gone. And when I kind of processed it, my head was hot. I'll be real. And now I feel like I'm feeling like I'm moving away, edging away from the whole, transfer debacle in terms of incomings, etc. And I'm starting to look back at what the journalists were saying at the start. Now, I don't know. You can either believe what you hear from people in terms of people that have, contacts close in the clubs. We call them ITKs. Or you can believe in the journalists if you want. Or you can just ignore all of it and just try to piece together what you think is right. And at the beginning, I remember a lot of fans were having a go at a lot of journals, saying the journalists have got it wrong. They don't know what they're talking about, etc., etc. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but I do remember the journalists saying that there was a cash problem. There's a lot of leg room. There's a lot of movement in the PSR room, so we can spend a lot of money. FFP, we've got a lot of space to spend. But in terms of physical cash to go out and buy actual players, that's what's limited. Now, obviously, the article that's broken from, is it Jack Percy? I don't know. We don't know if it's true or not.
The Telegraph, the fact that this release clause was complex and Spurs fell short of meeting a number of conditions to activate it.
Right then. So now you're piecing it together. Apparently, as you said, the actual release clause, the terms of it, was it correctly met? Was it met entirely? I don't know. This is where the grey area is, because we know that Spurs would like to do as a club payments over time, meaning that we might do a two payment plan. So we pay the first fee over maybe this season, and then amortization goes into the second season. I don't know if it's gone into 3 seasons, etc. I don't know the details, for example. But if that is the case, where we didn't meet every single stipulation of that actual contract, and the reason is because we don't have that much cash and we had to spread the payment out, that would indicate to me, do we really have that 60 million to spend on equivalent players? Am I making sense? So I could be wrong. I'm just speculating. Let me make that clear. Because people, I'm one of them. I don't know if the story is true. I could be like, the story could be BS for what I know. But from what I'm seeing, I'm just trying to piece it together bit by bit. Obviously, when we were linked with Kudos, we got the Kudos deal done. We knew that obviously West Ham were in some type of financial difficulties. And in the past, we have operated like that in terms of like Maddison. We got that deal over the line because Leicester had to sell, and we kind of waited it out. We didn't get that one in July. We waited until, that financial pressure was on, and then we could act on it. Similar situation with Richarlison, with Nottingham Forest. We waited that one out until that was untenable. We put financial pressure on them, and they had to lower their price a little bit. And they're not the only examples I can think of. So when the original journalist came out, I think it was Ben Jacobs that came out and said it. And I think Matt Law came out afterwards and he said it has to be 1 in, 1 out, meaning that we needed to get rid of and maybe like a Basuma to kind of fund the deal so we could actually have some physical cash to offset the actual transfer. I'm thinking, because that one wasn't done, did it affect some of the transfer business? Hence why we're hearing players like Palhinha, we want that player on loan as opposed to buying that player outright. Also, I know people argue, and I argue myself, Palhinha might be a stopgap in terms of the club don't normally buy a certain age, bracket. We normally go for younger players. And maybe that's why they're waiting out for next season for a younger profile. But if I'm piecing it together bit by bit, if I do not see 60 million or an equivalent of a 60 million player plus for another player of Morgan Gibbs-White, then I know that there's some type of issue in terms of paying those deals through. But to caveat my point again, I'm looking at that actual deal and I'm saying, when it came to the Eze deal originally, I remember they asked for a big chunk of the money and Spurs refused that. We can't pay that much money up front because that's too much money. We need to spread that payment out. And that's the reason why the Eze deal never got done. And I know a lot of fans still want the Eze, but for me, that's why I don't see this Eze deal as a realistic option. I remember last season when we were in talks with Wolves and we were trying to get the Neto deal over the line, we offered cash plus Skip. But when they refused Skip and they said, no, we want all of the cash, we quickly pulled out, and then Chelsea came along and they got that player. Do you understand? So I'm looking at these patterns and I'm thinking, is it a case of where maybe Spurs as a club, 1 in, 1 out is actually real? And do we have an issue in getting those players out? Because Basuma, as we know, he wants to stay within the Premier League. He also wants to stay within London because he's quite happy. And so obviously we've got Champions League football now, and some of these players are happy to stay at Spurs. And these are my conspiracy theories, by the way, guys. These are my tinfoil hat. I don't know. I could be wrong. And then you've got other players that aren't quite happy. So if we've got an issue, and it's not just this season, it's been other seasons where we've had to let go of players for money, less money than what we bought in. And so it does, because I know a lot of people are throwing Langer on the bus, and I could be one of them. I could be saying that Langer has to have a big issue in getting these players out. I remember when Paratici had to get rid of a whole lot of deadwood, and he had to let go of a lot of players for free. Had to just tear up contracts, pay contracts off, and so we lost money on players like Ndombele. Do you know what I'm saying? Going forward back into Langa, equally, we could say they screwed up on the Lo Celso deal, because Lo Celso was one of our biggest signings in that 2019 window. And now we were told that we were going to get a defensive midfielder. And he's gone now to, obviously, Betis in Cardoso. And I know you like that guy, Johnny Cardoso. I remember you used to like the name. But we ended up getting what? How much million? 2 million, basically, or 5 million for Lo Celso.
Having the ownership for that.
We got bumped, is what I'm saying. So, like, me looking at it, I'm saying, raw, Langa, like, he's got a lot of work to do. But again, it's coming down to our squad building. It's coming down to the people we've been recruiting. It's coming down to the money that we've not been able to get back into the club. And you're looking at like Liverpool, they've just sold Diaz for 75+ million. And everyone's saying, how can they afford to do deals? I'm looking at Chelsea, how they're quickly able to move players on. I know they're big clubs, but remember, we're meant to be big six. I'm just saying, isn't it? So, look,
there's a reason why. Listen, there's a reason why the Aston Villa fans were saying, take Johan Lang, right? He was demoted. Let's get it right, okay? Aston Villa, we got aspirations to be in the top four. Yeah, the Aston Villa, who were below us, got rid of Johan Lang, right? Demoted him. And as far as Morgan Gibbs-White, right? I couldn't care. I really couldn't care. And you know what, Ash? Let me tell you, you were on the show with Marlon and me, and we were talking, and I said to you, right, he ain't the finished article, right? Am I saying he's a bad player? No. No, I'm not saying he's a bad player, but what I'm saying to you was there were things about overcomplicating his passing, right? When, you know, trying to pass the ball with the outside of his foot where a simple pass can do, over elaborating on stuff, and his finishing wasn't great. And
I hear that. I hear that,
Johnny. And I said that to you and I, we both spoke, you, me, and Marlon.
Yes, I remember.
Right. So the ship has sailed, right? The ship has sailed. I wanted him, and I thought Frank could polish him. But if he's not here, and he's not going, and listen, let's be honest, him and Dom Solanke look so similar. I think it could have been a problem in the squad, right? Passing the ball to the wrong guy. Look, let's be honest.
I think also,
let's be honest. Yeah,
I want to ask you, Johnny. All joking aside, is the fact I know for a lot of fans, I want to come on to Joe as well on this. That we've spent 2.5 weeks. It feels being fixated by this move, and in the process,
well, I think this has happened because I think Tottenham, innit? They thought they were getting a good player on the cheap, and probably got overexcited. And it was the one time that Fabrizio Romano said, "Here we go," and it weren't true.
Get the play?
You know. And I think he's a decent player, but he's not Eze. Eze for me would be the one you'd go for, you know, because he's looks like he's on the verge of being one of those real elite, you know, these guys who can just make magic happen. You know, he can go past the man. He can make goals. He's got incredible shot on him. He's a game changer. You know, there's not many of them. They're the guys that the top teams like Liverpool get in. You know, they give you that something else. But you know, it's done now. I think there's other areas of the team we need to get stuck into before we get number 10. We have got 2 number 10s. I know they're not great, but Maddison and Kulusevski. At times when those two played together, do you remember away to City? I think it was. You know, there were times they were really top draw. You know, so and if we'd got Morgan Gibbs-White, I think Kulu might have been sold. And by the way, I think what Ash is saying, I wouldn't call that conspiracy theories, because, you know, until something happens that proves otherwise, you got to think we haven't got the money to spend. Simple as that. You know, and it's as if a constraint has been put. I would think by ENIC, you know, it's because, as I said earlier, you can't work out. It's not Ricky. You're top man in recruitment, right? So you know so many companies. You know exactly who does what. At the best companies, you know exactly who does what the relationships are. Tottenham, you know, it's never really sure. The comms are terrible for a major company, let alone football club. The comms are awful, and so it encourages people to start, making 2 and 2 to make 5, But it would appear to me we haven't got the cash. We've got to wait for players to go before we can spend any money. That's increasingly what it's looking like,
And just on this point, can I just ask Johnny? I mean, when you let me ask you a question. You come back on this point. When you saw that interview with Gibbs-White on the back of signing that new deal, there was just something that doesn't feel right about this whole thing. And again, it is, as Ash said, maybe I'm clutching to conspiracy theories here, but there's just something not right about.
Well, I mean, well, I tell you, who's laughing is his agent. Because his agent's probably sort of, God knows, who knows what's happened. But it's, if I'm representing somebody and I think, right, I'm not happy with the deal you've got.
Yeah.
I want you to have a better deal. So I'm going to just, maybe you have a conversations with people. Who knows? Who knows what, And in so doing, suddenly, there's a big situation and it ends up with that situation getting made right where he ends up getting what's probably a fantastic deal-breaking deal, probably the best deal Forest have ever given in modern times to a player. And the owner of Forest comes out of it looking great because he stood up for his club. He's made sure he's kept it player. And the party that looks bad is Tottenham, as ever,
Are they still holding the dog hostage? Are they still holding the dog hostage?
We didn't see what's behind his back. I mean, Johnny, just to summarise on this, I know many people want us to move on there because it's done, it's over. He's moved on. But
yeah, it's done, and it's not the guy. He's a decent player. I'm sure in 10 minutes we could come up with half a dozen viable alternatives just in this country.
Yeah, I'm listening. I want to hear those players, please. Let me know.
Yeah.
Who those players that are available.
There aren't
available. Simmons ain't available.
No.
So let me know who those players are.
There aren't a lot. Can I just say though, Ricky, just tonight, because I think this is important.
We ain't got the money. Ash, for us it's academic because we ain't got the dough.
Listen, we might not have the dough, but listen, let's be honest, right? This farce is just a long line of farces that have riddled this club. William, I mean, who can forget William? Who can forget William just saying, I'm going to the toilet, we've signed the deal, he climbs out the window, he goes and signs for Chelsea. How about Di Maria, right? Before we were going to sign Di Maria, and he turns out and he says, it hurts when you're always doing your best, and then you hear you might be going to Spurs. I mean, how does it get much worse than that?
You got Grealish was you had Dybala, Diaz, Fernandes, Moutinho, Morientes, Damiel.
Moutinho. When the facts didn't go through, right, because someone didn't do the what's name probably, and then Dybala. Like, we're going to sign Dybala. Oh no, we couldn't sort out the image rights. Yeah, Grealish. We offered Josh Onomar and some cash.
It was supposed to be free. It was supposed to be 3 million or something, right?
It's a long line of
the wrong Fernandes.
Yeah, but all the time with Tottenham, here in this Forest situation, we're saying, well, maybe this happened. Maybe the agent talked to maybe this happened. Maybe we don't know because nobody. We always have terrible comms over all these players, and the club just looks daft. And you would have hoped we won a major trophy in the last season against all odds. That the club would have people in the club would think, right, we've had this image problem and this self-respect problem for decades. This is a time to change it and to go about our business properly. We're
not going to sign Bruno Fernandes. I don't think I've ever been so excited when we were going to sign Bruno Fernandes. We wouldn't pay the money. Don't worry, guys. We couldn't get you Bruno, but we got you Gedson. And are you having a laugh? Are you having a laugh? And then
wait a minute, Johnny. Wait a minute. He had a decent game against Marine FC.
Can I ask very quickly, in terms of alternatives, I think one of them that's been mentioned that's cast a little bit of concern amongst the fan base is that is Harvey Elliott. That's one of the names that apparently is an alternative to Morgan Gibbs-White. Just sticking with you, Johnny, if I can.
Yeah.
Now we have moved on. I mean, what are the alternatives out there for you in terms of that position? Is there anyone out there? I mean, is Eze far gone now? I mean, again, I know politically we've spoken to a lot of journalists on this. It's difficult for Tottenham and Arsenal to be in for the same player. Grealish, another one. You know, there were always been some tentative links with him to Tottenham. What are the alternatives very quickly for you, Johnny, in that position if Tottenham are looking?
Listen, I do like Arden Jashwari there from Bruges. I've mentioned him a few times on streams over the last few weeks. It looked like he was going to go to AC Milan, but that deal hasn't gone through yet. And I got to tell you, I'm a massive admirer of his. Great carrier of the ball, great pressure of the ball. Still needs to improve his game. He's not the finished article, but he's available for around 30, 40 million. Listen, Harvey Elliott, I don't know. There's something about him. I think his finishing could be better than Morgan Gibbs-White. But is he a nasty little character? But I think we need. Look, he wants a nasty little character. He wants someone who's going to get stuck in, has got a great engine. You know what my fear is? I'll be honest with you. CG Conor Gallagher. I can see that is the type of player that he's going to go for. Someone's going to chase the ball, close down. Is that
because he just can't get regular minutes at Atletico and the fact it's a World Cup year coming up? Is that what that's about? I mean, to be fair, I mean, he's been I think we know, Johnny. I mean, I think you said before, he's been a Postecoglou. He was a Postecoglou target. He's a man that Postecoglou really, really wanted at the club. So if we are going to bring a Conor Gallagher in, is that an indication it's more of a club signing rather than a Frank signing?
No, I don't actually. I actually think obviously he wanted Morgan Gibbs-White. Yeah. But when I look at the type of Morgan Gibbs-White's work rate is phenomenal, and his ball recovery fantastic. I was just being facetious there, highlighting his weaknesses that needed improved. And I just think that from those, his strengths is probably what Thomas Frank would like in Conor Gallagher. In the fact that he chases and closes down. Look, we know that he can do it because, you know, he captained Chelsea and he played that role for Chelsea. Yep. He likes hard-working players. I mean, you know, no one's really seen the Conor Gallagher that was on loan at Crystal Palace that was playing further forward and banging in goals every week. We haven't seen that version of Conor Gallagher.
Do you remember against Tottenham? I was at Selhurst Park when they beat us 3-0, and he looked like Pele that day.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, look,
I agree.
I'm not saying that's the player I want. I'm just saying
that's the kind of profile they might go for.
That's the type of player they might go for. What do you reckon, Ash?
What do you reckon, Ash? Have you got any particular players they may or may not target as an alternative to Morgan Gibbs-White, in your opinion?
I know the one that a lot of fans want, that, you know, follow Italian football, and that's Nico Paz from Como. Yeah. But I know that Xavi Alonso's a fan of him as well. I was looking at him at Real Madrid, but nothing's really materialized for that either. And then you've got Paratici. We don't know his involvement, but we know that he's got strong ties over there in Serie A, and he's a person that could broker those type of deals that leaves it open for Lange just to kind of walk in and then hopefully just close, because that's what Paratici's good at. He's got the contacts, he's got the relationships, he's got that aura, as Johnny was alluding to. And so maybe that's a type of 10/centre midfielder that fans could probably look at and get excited. He's quite young as well, 20 years old, and he's a person that could help. Well, he could play in between the lines and play balls to open up teams as well. So he's a player that hasn't got a lot of experience. He's quite young, and I think maybe some of the other fans.
Will they moan about that, do you reckon?
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't get it all, because either you get a player that's not fully refined and not quite there, or you get a player that's got a high ceiling. So there's no right or wrong answers, really. You're going to take a risk either way in the market. But I know a lot of fans in the comments, they're talking about Paqueta, because obviously he's come out recently with West Ham I know. Obviously, we've already gone to West Ham and got
We've gone to
kudos.
West Ham and taken
I
kudos.
mean,
I don't
what's the likelihood of us going twice?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not really likely. But what we'll say is that he's beaten his allegations. He's going to look for compensation from the Premier League because it's defamation of his character. Has obviously lost money from that Man City deal because he was linked with them for 2 seasons, and that collapsed. And they were obviously going to use him as an attacking midfielder as well. Some people argue that he's not really a 10; he's more of an 8. But if you look at the profile, it's quite similar, I think, or closer to Morgan Gibbs-White because he is hardworking. He is a player that has got a lot of physicality. If you watch him, he likes little flick-ons. Like if the ball goes up in the air, he can win the flick-on. He's good in the air. Actually, his aerial ability is stronger than Morgan Gibbs-White as well. In terms of through ball, he's only one through ball less than Morgan Gibbs-White in that attacking midfielder role. And again, close control in terms of like looking after the ball. He's actually completed more dribbles than a Morgan Gibbs-White. So I'd understand if people wanted to look at Paqueta because he's got a relationship with Kudos that could fit in that position. Left-footed as well, Brazilian. So we've got that little Brazilian connection with Spurs with Lucas Moura, etc. I know Mr. Rouse, some people still like, but I get the whole idea of why people would like Paqueta, even like in terms of like long ball switches, balls over the top. He's actually got that in his locker as well. But so I'll let you come in, Ricky.
No, that's absolutely fine.
How much would you bet on that?
Well, so I saw something earlier today. It's 30 million that
Ashley got the memo on that one.
I'll bet. Oh yeah, the bet. I'll bet 30 million. Yeah.
He didn't get the memo. I got it. I know you're going.
Went over my head first.
I want to do a quick round of table and ask everybody what in their mind now is their kind of priorities of positions. We've spoken about the fact the club need ideally a left back. I mean, we spoke at the start of the show. Maybe you said, Johnny, they might look at the goalkeeping position. So, like, suddenly you've got a goalkeeper, a left. If they're looking at goalkeeper, we don't know. Left back, it does feel a bit of a certainty because, again, we've got this situation where Doggy at the moment is the, I think, only recognised left back within the squad. Spence, of course, has been playing either side. That number 6, which Jara's touched upon, feels like a big area they want to sort out. There seems to be suggestions that there's ongoing talks of trying to get Palhinha here. Doesn't appear that's going to be done at the moment, has to be said at the moment, in relation to this upcoming tour of Korea. And again, we've discussed the fact that number 10, a forward. I mean, Johnny, coming around to you very quickly. What in your kind of priorities are what Tottenham need this summer in terms of positions for you?
Number 6.
That's your top priority.
We needed that for a while. We needed one for ages. I mean, we've not had a proper one since Dembele. So Palhinha would do the trick. I think letting go of Holberg was a big mistake, and I think he was a miss. It was actually a miss. I think we would have been at least 7 or 8 points better off if we'd had him last year. You know, he was actually a good, solid midfielder, Holberg. You know, of course, Ange didn't rate him. So number 6, I do. Come on, who would you rather have? That geezer, he was at Villa. Where's he gone now? Martinelli.
Douglas Luiz.
Yeah, that's no. As a 6 year, he'd be fantastic. But talking of a keeper,
Emmy
would you rather have Vic?
Yeah, Emmy Martinez.
Or that guy Martinelli. What's his name?
Martinez.
You know, who was a solid keeper. Would have a good, obviously Romero, same ilk as Romero, an Argentinian winner. You know, a keeper, that kind of keeper with that kind of stamp.
Yep.
You want that, I mean, Vic's nice, but he's a bit of a flapper at times, he's quite an excitable. So we've got 2 excitable young men vying for that keeper's position.
Just for you, Jar, just for you, if we go round, you're saying for you, number 6 is the priority, right?
Number 6. 6 is absolutely a priority. So at least you start to develop a strong spine. And also a really good number 9 for me.
Okay.
I think we need that. I think we need that before a 10 because, we're looking at Morgan Gibbs-White, but look at Bergvall. Bergvall's starting to approach. He's him and what's going to happen with him and
Madison,
Sal.
Oh, Sal.
They're both could potentially this year really push on. So we might have that player in the ranks already. But for me, number 6, number 9, a keeper would be, a really proper keeper. Even though that Vic's very likable, and I hope I'm wrong. I think he's seems a really nice fella, and the Kinský fella looks a nice fella. It's a bit young, but they're both.
But is that the problem? Is that the problem, Joe, as well? Though, is that the problem? We got too many nice players. You know, again, we talk about the fact we're having a lot of nice players. Do we need someone that's a bit more? You know,
well,
dare I
look
say?
at Romero. Look at Romero. He's not. Romero's not your mate. Look at he done with that that bloke. Who's got the slab head? Who's his Maguire. He seems a nice bloke. I don't mean that. I quite like him actually. He's a nice fella. No, he's got like an armchair. He's head, isn't it? But I really sounds bad. But anyway, he got right into him, didn't he? You know, and so sometimes you need these blokes who have got a nastiness to them. You know.
I'll be honest, I've recovered from the show when Johnny said William jumped out the window. I just haven't recovered from that moment.
Well, it's so embarrassing, isn't it? It's so embarrassing. Tottenham, the butt of it. You know. But so that'd be number goalkeeper, number 1, number 6. Number 9, and obviously, if we could have a left back as well, that'd be a decent left back. But 6, 9, and 1 for me. The spine's still a bit weak,
Apart from that, we're all good. We're winning the league, aren't we? Ash, come around to you very quickly. Rattle me off the positions of your importance for you. Rattle me off. What's the most important?
I have to agree, man. I think the central midfielder role, because we're playing a double pivot at the moment, I think that needs work. I think the whole midfield needs work, if I'm being totally honest. When you're looking at when Maddison's out, and especially when Kulu's out as well, we've got no player that can get hold of the game and, join defense from attack. And I know what Thomas Frank would like to do, likes to get, the centre-backs and full-backs to do those diagonals quickly to get up the pitch. So it's not always small passes. I know he changes it from time to time, tactics, but I think if Son's gone and you've got to rely on the tail as a left forward or left winger, that's a position I want to see improved dramatically. I want to see a better player in that position. I think a left forward or a left winger is priority in my opinion. We need goals. I think that's an area. If we can't defend, we need to at least be able to score, especially if Dominic Solanke's out. And Richarlison, as I said before, he's quite injury prone. So, if we can't get players out the door, and there's only Son that's the one that's able to leave, then we're going to need... Because I don't know how true this 1 in, 1 out thing is. If it's a real thing...
I think what we are hearing, and I'm going to go, Johnny, to search for the close on this show, that at the moment, from recent reports, Spurs are in talks with Bayern Munich to try and get a deal over the line for João Palhinha. But again, the big thing at the moment is that we know Spurs are massively stocked in this area. They've got 5 players in this area where there's that feeling that one is going to have to go out in order to get a deal done. And that player that appears to be the one the club are trying to actively move on. But it would tell you a lot by the fact he's on that tour, and that's Yves Bissouma. So it doesn't appear a move must be close by the fact if Bissouma's out on the tour, Johnny, just coming over to you, it doesn't appear this João Palhinha deal must be close, because the reality is at the moment, if Bissouma's the man they want to move on and he's on the tour, there is no indications that a deal is very, very close. And again, it's not like Tottenham to really spend a lot of money on over 30s. I think this will be the first time since, Scott Parker got to go over a decade ago, or dare I say even Llorente maybe, the last time Spurs have spent money of this kind of calibre. I think you're looking at, a 25, 26 million fee, Johnny, if they were to get João Palhinha over the line. So I'll come over to you on that point. For you, you tell me, what are the priorities now, given what we've gone through over the last week, the Gibbs-White saga plan out as it has? What do the club need to be focusing now, as we, of course, are going to be taking on these games on the tour? Arsenal, Newcastle, Bayern Munich, respectively, ahead of that big one, Paris Saint-Germain, the Super Cup.
Well, I think the first thing we need to focus on is the fact that we've got 3 teams. We had a team against Wickham. We had a team against Luton, and we had a team that was injured, and we had a team that was injured, right? So take the P out of Chelsea having 87 players, some in a holding pen, some in the same, half of them are out in Strasbourg out on loan. But we must have 36, 40 players. We need to get rid of players. And as quite rightly said, if Sonny goes, you can't rely, and Mikey Moore goes, what are you going to do? Rely on Matthias Tell and Manus Solomon, who's also injured all the time. and or Richarlison playing out on that left-hand side? No. So you need a 6. I think we're all agreed. I think we need a 6 for 2 years.
Yeah.
I need versatile left centre back, left back like a Hincapié. I need a left-sided winger, come attacker who can play across the line. I know that they'll say Kudos can play there. That's what they're going to say. But no, I want someone, who's going to be a danger. For me, James Maddison is no way he's going to play throughout the season. So I need a 10, and I need a mobile striker, someone who leads the line. I tell you what, in that first game, no one seemed to be talking about how bad Dominic Solanke was in that game. He couldn't even jump. I don't know what was going on. He was so poor. I mean, it's not the whole season. It's just the pre-season said before.
No.
But I honestly believe that
you've listed, Johnny, you've just listed about 6 positions there.
Yeah, I know. And we've got like 40, 36, 40 players. So we need to be getting rid of players or deciding, listen, we don't know what's in Thomas Frank's and Cochrane's head right now. They might be looking at and saying, look, we can develop X, Y, and Z into this position and that position. Therefore, if we've only got 60 million or 80 million or whatever, right, let's sell him. Let's generate some money. We need the money to spend all the money on these 2 positions. Then I get it. But it's I don't say the word. It's a terrible word. I don't want to say the word rebuild. There's plenty of talent in the squad, but we need talent in the right positions, right?
Do you think that will happen before the actual final? Do you think we'll get a player over the line before the final?
I think we'll get one over. I think
what position? If Basuma's not going to be able to come out, like, are we really going to get that 6? This is what we're trying to get.
Do you know what, Ash? In the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, Don Fabio's been so quiet. Are we going to get another situation where out of nowhere we bring in like a Bentancur and Kulu that no one saw coming? I just wonder if we're going to get that sort of scenario. I don't believe for 1 minute the club is sitting there having, got done on Morgan Gibbs-White, seeing all what's going on with Arsenal.
There's surely got to be a reaction. Got to be a reaction.
Got to be a reaction.
I'm not sure, because I remember when it was Conor Gallagher and we had money for him, that money it disappeared. I don't know what happened.
It's the same when I think, again, I might be wrong here. When I think a few years ago he drew down 150 million or whatever. Yeah. What happens to that other 50 million?
What happened to
we're in the dark, aren't we? But I would have thought it's very unlikely we're going to sign more than 2 or 3 players.
I just don't think the money. I mean, I might be wrong. Look, this is me making. Just making an assumption. I don't think the money's there for that. I mean, look, the thing we know, Jar.
It'll come down to a number. It'll come down to a number 6 and maybe one other position. I don't. And I think a lot of that is because. At the job interview, Thomas Frank would have, they would have said to him, we need somebody, can you develop the squad? And he would have said yes, So they'll be looking to, there'll be players like Bergvall and Sarr will be expected to be starters. Kudoveski when he's fit again. If we'd signed Morgan Gibbs-White, I think Kudoveski might have been sold. Now I think he'll be there. I think they'll go with Tell, and I think they're going to back themselves to develop Tell. On the left, and I think maybe they'll try Johnson out there. By the way, I thought Johnson was as poor as Solanke, by the way.
But I don't think anyone had a great game. But I think the key thing here, so we look for the close on this show, is that the reality is that everyone knows now, whether we like it or what everyone thinks out there, Tottenham were going to trigger, or if they had triggered the release clause for Gibbs-White, which again, we're not privy to what happened. There was 60 million there, or aroundish that number, to trigger that release clause. So everybody in their dog knows Tottenham have got 60 million on the spin when it comes to going back into the market. And
but have they? Because they were probably, well, I tell you what, we'll give you 500 now, right? So they'll give you 500 now, and then in 7 years, have they got 60 million? I don't know. Yeah,
it's also, remember, we have money for Guehi. Remember, 70 million we bid on the last day. Where's that gone? Where's that gone? Did we have it? It's like phantom money. You know what I'm saying? It's like the black card. I don't know if it's real.
Listen, I think what you're going to have to do, guy, anyone in the chat, if you could contact Ricky for two things. First of all, if you see Morgan Gibbs-White's dog. Number two, whether or not you know the whereabouts of the missing 60 million. Ricky will let us all know. So if you know, DM on the quiet.
No, I don't think the dog's been kidnapped. I think he's genuinely very excited about the forest project.
Yeah,
I think he suddenly saw it. You see, you know.
Did you see the fingers tapping? It was Morse code. SOS.
John, they're saying they're going to listen to you playing to get him off to sleep tonight to relax after the last 24 hours. There you go. That's what you need. A good old session from Jar. Jar, mate, thank you so much for coming back on the show. I know whenever we bring you on, it's not your fault. Something's always erupting in the Spurs fan base. So thank you so much, mate. And every time we bring you back on, we're in a bit more of a better place. Is that fair? Can we promise that?
Oh, look, I think with Thomas, I like this geezer.
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, it's not,
he's not Thomas Frank. He's the
Thomas Frank's the last of my
Thomas
Frank's the last of my concerns right now.
My concern isn't Morgan Gibbs-White, isn't that the Forest owner. My concern is how our clubs run.
That's what I mean.
And how we get into a situation yet again, like Palhinha, like Diabala, etc. Like Willem climbing through the Kazi toilet to get sexy to Chelsea, all that paper. It's just honestly, you would just want someone with our mentality who loves the club, to be sort of in control of the overview of the club, just to make care of, so that it's treated, the image of the club, and it's treated with a respect. Again, we're back down to that thing of owners being guardians of a legacy and doing things with dignity and doing things with class, and not having unfortunate situations like this Morgan Gibbs-White thing. Where because to me, if I run in a club and somebody, and I found out, there's a really great player available only for 60 million. If it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. I mean, so you go into it very carefully, I would have thought. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Very carefully, as I said earlier, and you might think, well, where could this road lead us? And what's in reality, what do we need to do? And normally that would come down, I would have thought, to a chairman phoning a chairman before, and actually, but who knows? Again, it's all the imagination. It's all, conjecture, because we'll never know what goes on. We never know what goes on the training ground.
No.
We don't know what goes on in the boardroom. So here we are in the dark, imagining how things are. But I just wish at times our club was kind of managed overall with a more respectful kind of way that deserves. It's a great club, great fans. We just won something. It's a chance to write a new fucking chapter. You know what I mean? And go again with and that Baldy. And look, I'm bald as well, but Baldy's going on about winning the fucking league, we want to win more. When they've got the little white thing, the corporate day out. I love it in corporate geezers who are trying to be all loose, and of course it just makes it. They wear jeans, blue jacket, white shirt. It's like, there you go. And it don't say that stuff. It talks cheap. So
actions.
Actions, and at least explain a fucking plan. We think these players are really good and we can develop them. Explain something. Just have the respect. Just to explain. Just to give some communication about what the direction is. You don't have to spill the beans and give away tactical secrets or strategies with there. Anyways, Johnny said, let's hope that Paratici's out there now with the old. He has that, so no one can tap him with the Bluetooth. He still uses the old school speakers. He's out there doing a couple of deals for good Italian players.
I know many are frustrated, Joe. It took right into the end of the show to get a rant from you. An absolute, get a few F's in there. It's taken that long. Yeah,
it always comes down to the same thing. Wanting the club treated with class and with respect. You know what I mean? That's what we want.
Agree. You can see he's ready to go back to the ground, can't you? He's only 3 weeks away, Joel. We're going to get you back in there.
All I'm bothered about, though, really, this fucking tour, you know, I'll be watching it. I suppose it'd be on at like 4 o'clock in the fucking morning, but I'll be watching it. I'll be Spurs play, you know. But all I really give a fuck about is Burnley at home. That's the fucking meat and potatoes. Burnley at home, and that's when it starts for me. Before it's all a load of bollocks.
What about the Super Cup?
Load of bollocks. I mean, yeah. You know, let's go out there and kick them a bit and play dirty, and we might even get a result, you know. So that'd be great. But I only really give a Burnley. But Burnley's more important to me than fucking PSG right now.
Interesting.
Burnley at home. I can't wait. I mean, I'm excited, and you know, and I've got faith in this gaffer, I've got to say, and that Cochrane geezer. I think he's a good coach. And I think they improved the players we've got, you know, and all that.
Yeah.
So, but we need someone like Palhinha. We need a bit of grit in there, you know. I like that geezer. I mean, he every time he played against our midfield, he fucking knocked them all over the place. I saw him really bully Holberg and Skip. Do you remember that League Cup game where we lost on penalties? Oh, it was awful to watch.
Yeah, when they changed like 9 players.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And one player we're not really Mad Solomon, who's always injured, but he had a very decent season last year with Leeds and could play a part. I've got a feeling he might like him, that Thomas Frank.
You've just very quickly, Jar, before we let you go, you've upset the rest. You've upset the natives. A cup final. Come on, Jar. I want you to be on the team for the cup final. PSG. Give it.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay. All right. It's PSG. It's a cup final, Super Cup. It's all great, but I say again, for me, honestly, when I think of Burnley coming out in their claret and red at White Hart Lane, that excites me more than the PSG game. That's real. That's when it really, really starts. Because PSG, we get beat 5-0. Yeah. Okay, not fucking great. If we win 5-0, fucking great. We can take the piss. As we all know, when we sing Champions of Europe, we know we're not. We were shit last year. But it's great to be able to sing it. It winds every fucker up. It's great because we did. It was a major tournament. But, you know, so this PSG, if we beat them 5-0, whatever, it's gone. It's about the fucking league now. You know, it's about the future, your competitive games now. So Burnley, that's when it actually gets serious for me, that game.
Jar, you're a star. We love you so much. Make sure you go and check Jar, of course, out on X feed to get his latest gigs for what's coming his way.
I've got an album out, dub album, volume 1, and I've got an album out with Ken Booth. Remember Ken Booth?
Love that.
Still
Everything
great.
I own. Everything I own.
Well, we've done that, and we've done a load of Temptations numbers. You know, I'm doing BVs on Just My Imagination.
Mate, I love Ken Booth. Ken Booth.
Yeah, he's still got it, mate. You can still hit them notes. Yeah.
Really?
And very quickly, Jar, when's the book coming?
Oh, the book's out. Been out. It got republished last year. That's a good read. You know, got a lot of Tottenham in there. You know.
Go and get that. A lot of memories. Jar, you're a star. We look forward to seeing you back with us very, very soon. Ash, thank you so much over at the Spurs Kings. Ash has got lots of stuff going on there. Just a quiet one, Ash. Let's hope we're back in the market soon. For all of our sakes, right? Let's hope we're back in the market.
Oh, jeez. I feel like taking another holiday, bro. I'll be real. But we move, man. Listen, this is the club we chose. Or did the club choose us? I don't know. Some of us inherited it.
Yeah.
So I've been back and forth.
The white shirt. It's a spiritually pure club. It's the club that when you die, you go to the pure Buddha lands. Tottenham's the favourite club there. It's a pure club. It's a club that will eventually prevail, and it's a good over evil thing.
You mean I've got to wait till I go to see all this? That's what I've got to wait for.
Yeah. Time and space, just a fucking illusion, Ricky. Seriously, you're there now. We'll be there against Burnley. That's not.
I thought I was there when I was at the parade. Now I've woken back up and thought that was all an illusion. I tell you.
It was great. It was winning that thing that was absolutely wonderful, and I think that there's an awakening happening in spite of Levy, in spite of Ennick. There's a renaissance with this club now, with the fans. You can feel it, and with this Thomas Frank's the right geezer. So there's a juggernaut happening here. All these other clubs can buy all the fancy Dans they like. There's still a bunch of cunts, a lot of them. Sorry, you know. So we're on the move now.
The later we're going, the more.
Stop that. Sorry. I try and say, but that's really what I am.
We've done well, Ricky. We've contained him for about an hour and a half. We've done quite well, to be honest with you.
Sorry.
Ricky's been demonetised. 18 times.
Yeah.
Never change. We love him very much. Ash, we love you so much. Johnny, thank you so much, mate.
And,
You're a
and
great-
these lads are always good lads because they actually speak sense. A lot of the time, your toes are curling, listening to people talk shite, but they actually know. They obviously know what they're on about. It's good. And you do, Ricky, as well.
Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. Johnny, thank you so much, mate. Always a pleasure. And it's fair to say there's a lot of work to do, right? For sure. A lot of work to do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a bit upset now because my team to face PSG has now been screwed up because Keely's gone. My original team was to play PSG was Vicario, Kinský, Austin, Keely, Gunter, Porro, Romero, Danso, Mickey van der Ven, Destiny, and Jed Spence up front. So I don't know what I'm going to do now. We've already lost. Looks like we could be losing 2 of those goalkeepers. So I don't know what team I'm going to have to put out. Listen, look, it's been great streaming with Jar and Ash. And if you're around tomorrow, guys, Football Inc. If you like football, talking about football, other than Spurs, pop on Football Inc. We're on every day. Took 2 days off. I was on holiday, but we're on every day for an hour, talking about latest transfer news. And Ricky, thanks very much for having me. Ash and Jar, always a pleasure.
I want to say next time you're on, Johnny, it'll be more calmer waters, but with Tottenham, we can't promise anything, right? Let's see what they throw back at us. I tell you, it's going to be
lads. It's Tottenham.
Yeah. Quite literally.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's been a pleasure. Jar, never change. We love you so much. Obviously, go and check Ash over at Spurs Kings TV. Make sure you're checking Johnny out back on Football Inc. He can't wait to talk about everything in the market. Hopefully, there's a bit of Spurs he can crowbar in there when we start getting busy. Guys, from us all, please keep safe, keep well. Thank you so much for your support. Keep liking and subscribing. We'll be back with you in due course. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.